Okay.
11.
Alright, the second strategy that we're going to be focusing on is called story impressions. Story impressions is a pre-reading strategy that introduces students to the vocabulary they will need to know for a particular unit of study. Provides students the opportunity to create relationships among the words, basically by asking them to write a paragraph in the order that the words are actually listed, and also this strategy allows the teacher to assess the student's prior knowledge based off of what they write, including the words in their paragraph. So, story impressions, this is basically how you use it. As the teacher, you would preview a section of text and identify 10 to 12 important terms that you want the students to know. You would list the words in order that they appear in the text. Independently or in small groups, students would work together to brainstorm connections that they find between these words. Then they would create a possible version of what they think this text that you previewed looks like by writing a paragraph. They would share out their paragraphs, and then they would actually get a chance to read the text that you previewed and compare it to their version. And if they need to make revisions or corrections, if they use the words incorrectly, they would get the chance to rewrite their paragraph. So basically the strategy encourages them to think about what they're reading ahead of time and helps them write and think about the words. And it also allows them to work with their peers to find connections between the words that they're working with. So it really works well for all aspects in terms of reading, writing, and collaborating with their peers. So we will not be engaging in this strategy today. It's too time consuming, but I do have an example here for you to look at. This is a science example. This is something you can take back to your classroom and adapt based off of your content area. The important terms are at the top, so that's what the students were given. The student sample there is what they came up with based off of their collaboration with their peers, the relationships they found amongst the words, and then the actual text is below. That's what the teacher was using to pull the terms from. So if you looked at it closely, the kids did a pretty good job with their sample, and if, like I mentioned before, if they had not, they would be given the chance to go back and revise their writing so it made more sense and it used the words correctly. Any questions about story impressions?
No.
Okay, this last strategy is called Type 1 writing. The purpose is for engaging students and getting them to think. There's no right or wrong answer. These responses can be evaluated with quick and simple evaluations. For example, check plus, check minus. It's quick, short, to the point. For today's purposes, we're using the Type 1 writing for reflecting, either at the beginning or end of a lesson. It could also be used for activating prior knowledge based off what the kids already know. Reflecting, like I said, making connections, and also thinking about their learning, and also creative thinking. So this strategy is great because it can be adapted for many different uses. So up here, like I said, we're focusing based on reflecting. So I gave you some prompts that you could use in your classroom for any content area. So the first one is called 3, 2, 1. Will, would you mind reading that for us?
Write 3 things you found interesting, 2 things that you found confusing, 1 thing you want to know more about.
Okay, so like I said, that could be used at the beginning of a lesson to reflect on the previous day's learning, or also at the end of a lesson. Kelly, would you mind reading the second prompt?
What part of yesterday's discussion about blank would you find difficult to explain to someone else?
Okay, and I included the blanks in there because you can fill those in with whatever you're working on in your specific class or content. When you think about blank, what are some things you wonder about? So that's another prompt you could use. If you were going to solve this problem again, do this experiment again, read this piece again, what would you do differently? And in last night's homework, what was the hardest part for you to solve, draw, read, write, create, whatever the students are doing? So as you can see, these are prompts that are, even though they're short and to the point, they get the students really thinking about what they're learning, what they understood, what they didn't understand. And then also, I'm going to hand out later that gives you writing prompts for all the uses, for prior knowledge, making connections, so this can be used for those reasons as well. And you'll be engaging in the Type 1 writing during the reflection piece of the workshop. Any questions?
No.
Okay. I'm also going to give you guys some additional ideas for strategies you can use in the content areas. So these are just other ideas you could use outside of these 3, and if you need additional information, about them or further explanation, you can come see me after the workshop and I can provide you with that. So you could use things like double entry journals, learning logs, exit slips, responding to writing. Could be a quote that they're responding to, an athletic speech, a piece of artwork. The kids might also be doing lab reports in science, a gist summary, creating a health plan or a workout plan, writing a speech, or writing a song for music class. Research papers, assignments, or current event writing, mostly geared towards probably social studies class. Journal writing, even in math, the kids can explain their thinking. Open-ended responses, learning vocabulary through writing, such as graphic organizers. Review writing, so students could listen to a musical composition or review an art piece and then review their thoughts about it through writing. Reading journals, reading journals or articles and responding to new information. So they might read an article in phys ed about a sports technique and then have to respond to what they learned through that article, what they think about the sports technique, what would they do differently. Same thing could be applied to an article about health, an art technique, or an historical time period. And then on the next few slides, I give you some more specific ways that writing has been incorporated into the content areas. So the first one is in automotive class. Students respond to the following cause and effect prompt. Cause and effect is also used in social studies, language arts, math, all different content areas. It says, create a how-to manual for teen drivers who want to know how they can make the engine of a new car maintain peak performance. Students are told their language must be clear and concise in order to be effective, so they go on a lazy word hunt. Each time they find one of these vague or overused words, they replace it with a more precise word. So not only are they learning about the content of their automotive class, they're also improving their vocabulary while they do this activity. In health, students are asked to research, design, write, illustrate, and edit newsletters to be distributed through the school nurse's office, which identify and discuss the effects of health problems related to teens on their overall or future health, such as smoking, lack of physical activity, diabetes, body piercing, and sports injuries. And the last one would be in Algebra 1 class, students are working individually in class to design a word problem to submit for a class-generated homework assignment to be given out the next night as a review for an upcoming test. The teacher conducts 30-second conferences by stopping by each student's desk as he or she works and allows the students to ask one question about the evolving word problem. So I thought that was really neat that students are actually the ones writing the word problems that are going to be used with their peers. So that's one way that math could be included with writing. Some of the takeaways from the workshop that I hope you guys will take away to your classrooms is that you have an understanding of how important it is to include writing across all subject areas, that including writing in the content areas does not need to add additional time. It can be easily infused into the content and the curriculum that you're already expected to teach. It's not something that needs to be added in to create more work and time for you. Writing in the content areas is writing to learn, as I mentioned before, and writing in language arts is learning to write. That teacher is responsible for the kids' actual writing, and you would be responsible for using writing as a tool for learning. And also, I hope you take away some useful strategies and ideas that you can easily apply within your classroom, no matter what content area you teach. In terms of administrative expectations, if an administrator were to come to your classroom, they are expecting that some of these specific strategies are being used in your classroom. It doesn't have to be just these. It could be other ones that you come across in your research. But either way, it is an expectation that this is being done in your classroom. We also would like to see these strategies being written in your lesson plans. And we just want you to know that we're here to support you and also come in and do model lessons for you if you need and help you along this district-wide initiative. It's very important to us that everyone is on board. Do not hesitate to reach out to us, and we appreciate all of your hard work as teachers. And then finally, these are some references that I used in the presentation if you would like to use those as well. Before I allow you to reflect on the workshop, I just want to give you a minute to take part in the gallery walk. It's also called a carousel. I have 3 posters set up, and these are just some thinking points for you guys to reflect on after you've been a part of the workshop. So I have post-it notes there for you. Basically, I just want you to read the statement, and then decide whether you agree or disagree. And you can either write on the post-it why or be ready to share. So I'll give you about 2 minutes to do that. Thank you. Now, would anyone like to share one of their thoughts or reactions they had?
Use the first one if you want.
Go ahead.
The poster reads, you need to know how to grade writing in order to include it in your classroom. And I said, no, I don't feel the teacher needs to grade the writing as long as they can see that the student is understanding their subject matter. I think the child should be told that they won't be being graded on their writing either, so they feel freely to write and know it's not going to hinder their grade if their writing is not, you know, exactly what they should be, but it allows them to express themselves.
Okay, thank you. I put that poster up there because it's a common misconception that some teachers don't include writing in their content area because they don't know how to assess it or grade it, and that doesn't need to be the focus. They can include, you know, word choice and organization in there as part of their assessment, but it doesn't need to be. It could be more focused on the content. So some teachers are hesitant because they don't know how to grade writing, but you don't really need to know how to do that to include writing in your classroom. Will, did you want to share one?
Yes, I was going to discuss the second poster, and it says including writing in the content area is difficult because it takes up more time than it should devote to the curriculum. I said it was not true because based off of what we learned today, a lot of this helps the student in learning, and it's basically taking the curriculum that we've already taught them and allowing them to reflect on it, and it also allows us to see where they are with the curriculum, if they understand it or if they don't understand it, and it helps us modify our lesson for the following day.
Right. I'm glad you said that because, like I've been trying to stress to you, including writing in your content area is not something that's going to add extra time. It's actually going to help you. Like you said, assess the students, see where they are, and it gives the students a better chance to think about what they're learning and to really get it deep into their understanding. So I think if more teachers tried it in their content areas, they would see it's actually beneficial. It's not something that's going to add more time and effort into their planning and things like that. So thank you for sharing. The last thing I want you guys to please do for me is I have a reflection sheet here. It says, please fill out the workshop evaluation form below. Be honest. Thank you in advance for your feedback. So just ask you some really quick questions. You don't need to use complete sentences. It could be very quick to the point. And then just hand me that while you're leaving, please. And thank you again for coming. And you don't need to put your names on it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Okay, just to close up the video, I wanted to give a closer look at some of the posters that were used in case they were not visible from the distance. So this was the sample raft. This was the story impression poster. This was the sample raft that was used for fractions. Gives different roles. These were some of the gallery walk posters. And then finally, this was the type 1 writing prompts that were included. Thank you for your time.